You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Tide.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
Hey, thanks for pressing play on this episode of Two and Out. It's Travis Currah, Sheldon Jones, and initially I was against you shaving that mullet, but look at you, man.
I clean up well.
That is a nice slick haircut, the nice tight beard trim, and here I am just, you're making me look bad. That's why I got you on the show. Although, earlier this week, you told me you went out for endless shrimp at Red Lobster, and I cannot convey my disappointment at how quickly that endless shrimp came to an end, Sheldon. Like, you texted me, you ate 30 of these tiny sea crustaceans, and you said you were struggling already. Like, what happened?
That's not it at all. Like, come on. I ended at 52. Okay. And they were all the big ones. There's none of the little ones. What I was saying is they used to put the little ones in the linguine back in the day, so you could count them because they're actual shrimp.
Yeah, but you can't count that in your numbers. So in the past, you're inflating your numbers.
Inflation's a thing. Get used to it. Whatever. But you know what's crazy? On Mondays at Red Lobster in Regina, it's only $20 for endless shrimp still. Like, shrimp are inflation proof, apparently.
You're losing if you don't go.
Exactly. Like, I'm going every Monday from now on.
So here's the thing. It's been said that Red Deer cannot have a Red Lobster because of its proximity to an international airport. It's basically almost exactly 90 minutes away from Edmonton or Calgary. And I know Regina has an international airport, but you're saying that
not like we're Hamilton.
Endless shrimp is still $20. Winnipeg doesn't have an airport. Do they have a Red Lobster? I don't even know.
It's $20 on Mondays, $25 any other day, but still, like, $20 for endless shrimp. Like,
even if you're going to put a performance forward like Sheldon, it's worth it.
Man, hey, listen, I was driving home from work. I see the sign that it's back. And me and my brother-in-law, we go like usually once a year. And so I text him as I'm driving. Well, I voice text him as I'm driving saying, hey, endless shrimp is back. And he sends me a text back later. Oh, cool. And so I'm hungry. I'm on my way home. I go to McDonald's. I get a double QPC and a large fry and a large drink. Okay. And I'm eating it. And he's like, all right, let's meet there at 5:30. And I'm like,
oh no.
So
you have McDonald's and you had that?
So
Wow.
So this fat guy still ate a lot of food, and you know what? You're going to be in Regina in a couple weeks.
Labor Day Shrimp Fest?
Challenge is on. Just saying. No, please don't. That would make us feel like garbage at the game.
Yeah, be pre-game Labor Day Shrimp Fest? Probably not the best idea. No.
But anywho, I was at the pool. This is my George Costanza moment, and I will take it. I had a full stomach already.
All right. Is a double QPC a half pounder? It has to be, right?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Because a quarter pound and a quarter pound is a half. Yes, we can do math. Pre-cooked.
That's the key. Now, I always encourage people to go to twoandout.ca, click mailbag, and participate with the show. And this is what George did. George is in Smoky Peachland, BC, by the way. So, George, thanks for writing in. I definitely hope you're safe as you take part in Two and Out. He shared a thought on each 9 teams Each of the 9 teams in the CFL, as we're about halfway through the season, just about a sentence on each team. For the BC Lions, he says, Nathan who?
Yeah.
For the Elks, he says, yay, a win, but still.
Hey, 2 in a row coming up, man.
For the Stamps, he says, it's sad to see an era come to an end, unless it's Calgary. Then it's angry elk awesome.
Awesome for us, too.
I'm going to save the Riders one for last because I just love the line. For the Bombers, he says, they're old and slow, except when they need not to be. That's probably pretty accurate. For the RedBlacks, he says, God must hate the RedBlacks. No, wait. God must love the RedBlacks. No, wait. Oh, I am so confused. For the Ticats, he goes, can Scott Milanovich find a big enough fire extinguisher? I don't think so. For the Argos, will continue to dominate the highly prestigious and completely unbiased Dog of the Week awards. Yes, they will. For the Alouettes, he says, if we can trick Jason and Cody into saying Alouettes backwards, will they be pulled back into Bizarro World? And then the thought on the Rough Riders. They're on track to once again lead the league in fan base heart attacks per capita. He says this is a true story. During the last 2 minutes of Sunday's game against the Lions, he actually received an alert on his Fitbit. It told him that he appears to be stationary, but his heart rate is very high.
I think a lot of fans got that alert.
Which I absolutely love that line. Over 750,000 people watched that game on Sunday, the highest rated CFL game of the season, and the league toting some metrics as we are about a week and a half away from Labor Day, talking about the increase in ratings, the increase of the 25 to 54 demographic, watching the games on TSN, which, by the way, I actually do think it's impressive, the TV numbers that are getting pulled in, because as far as I know, this doesn't count the streamers, the people stealing or pirating games. and that's the age we live in now. So I think it's pretty impressive what we're seeing.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah, I love what's happening. They talk about the slight increase in attendance and game day revenue in the major markets like Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. But things are kind of falling in places like Edmonton, even Saskatchewan and Calgary a little bit. So there's a bit of give and take. It seems like we can never have the perfect situation in the CFL. If things are, being talked about more positively in Vancouver and Montreal, then the mighty Edmonton franchise starts to struggle a little bit, and that's just what happens. And I know we'd all like every team to go 9-9, but there always seems to be a really bad team. I guess we would like them to be not completely incompetent and be able to compete. And it does seem like, I know Ottawa really struggling in recent years, Edmonton as well, but they seem to be putting out more positives lately than we've seen even last season,
Yeah, no, this season has been great for, like, the East has at least up until last week, a winning record against the West, I think, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like, I think parity is here. There's still some teams that are a little bit worse, and there's obviously teams that are a little bit better, but the gap has been shortened, and it's just been exciting football. And yeah, it's paying off by the ratings that it's getting. You're obviously getting people on X and other social medias that are Xing about the games, and so it word of mouth is obviously spreading, and more people are checking it out, which is great. I wish we could figure out a way to get attendance up as well, and the bigger markets too, but it's positive numbers for those other three, like you mentioned, and those three need it the most. So it's still a good thing.
Isn't this wild? Like, considering we don't have live stats, like I realize things can be better, and I think everybody listening to the podcast, every fan of the Canadian Football League, wants things to be better. So we're approaching Labor Day, man. I had hopes that this whole stats thing would be figured out. I was poking around the site trying to figure out the league leaders and things like that, and all there is right now is a PDF. That's just not good enough. And at this point, it's like, is this going to be ready for the playoffs? So with all of this engagement increasing, ratings increasing, we got to be better to kind of support those things to keep this momentum going. But I digress to week 12, where do you think the Alouettes get disrespected a little bit? The Bombers are 9-point favorites. Now, the Bombers are 4-1 at home. The Alouettes have won 4 in a row. They're 3-1 on the road. But I still think they're kind of getting overlooked a little bit. And Winnipeg seems to be a team, I don't know. Sometimes they'll just go out there and crush you like they did against BC. But then sometimes they'll play down to their opponent. And I know Drew Brown got the start, but Calgary had every opportunity to beat Winnipeg. They couldn't pull it off. I'd say Montreal is a better team than Calgary right now.
Yeah, especially with Cody back in there, I would say so. Yeah, 9 points. It does seem like a lot, but I don't know if that's unfair. It's just like you said, it all depends. Like you said, the Bombers are like a Jekyll and a Hyde kind of team. It seems where sometimes, but the most frustrating thing is they're Jekyll and Hyde in the same game. It's not just like week to week. They can to bed in the first half, and then O'Shea is great at making second half adjustments, and then they rattle off 30 points in the second half and come back and win. So with their explosive offense, I can see them getting, those 10 or covering with those 10 points, but at the same time, 9.5. I could see Montreal keeping it close, and they've had a couple comeback wins too. So Cody's always been a late game player. He in Riderville, he did it a number of times, coming back and winning the game again. So I think it's going to be a fantastic game, to be honest. Like it's starting off with a good game. Like let's go.
Well, let's see if the Alouettes come crashing down to earth a little bit. 4 in a row, but Winnipeg this week, BC next week, and then a back-to-back with Toronto. So over these next 4 games, we're going to find out who the Alouettes are. If you look at the stats, they're third, the least amount of yards given up per play. They've given up the least offensive touchdowns in the CFL. They've given up 14, where the BC Lions and the Bombers have given up 15 offensive touchdowns. The Owls, they're third in net offense against, behind BC and Winnipeg. So right now, I mean, they're doing pretty well, but we'll see what happens, like you said, or I said, over the next 4 games here. Cody Fajardo is set to return, but Zach Collaros set to return for the Bombers as well. And maybe that is why they're given that generous line of being 9-point favorites. But I don't know if you caught it. He threw a little bit of shade at the CFL in a scrum with the media. Basically, after returning to practice, he was asked about his thoughts, on that hit, the injury he suffered in the Edmonton game. And he had said, well, he didn't think the hit was intentional. He said that protecting quarterbacks has never been a priority in this league. It was a subtle dig, but Zach Collaros, the 2-time MOP, not very happy with what happened there.
Yeah, and a pissed off Zach is a very good quarterback.
It's true.
So I don't know if the odds makers had that in their pocket too, but when he's ticked off, he's not a quarterback I would want to play against. So I'm glad he's going to maybe get it out of his system this week before Labor Day and Banjo Bowl. But yeah, you feel for the guy because he's been on the receiving end of lots of hits, and he's probably going to be a little lighter in his wallet after making those comments. But
Maybe.
he's not wrong. Sometimes it seems like they call the stupidest rinky dink roughing the passers, and then sometimes they seem to miss obvious shots. Like in the Ryder game, I don't think it was roughing the passer when they kind of sandwiched Vernon Adams and his head. Like it didn't. There was no contact to his head. It was. I don't think it was that late. The later one with Lanier, that was bad.
That was
not good. And
senseless,
but like that play in Winnipeg when he got hurt, or Edmonton, wherever it was, like it could have been flagged. I don't know if it should have been, but it could have been if you're really careful, or if you're really worried about player safety, then some of those bigger hits gotta be flagged. But at the same time, look at this past week at the Ryder game and all those special teams hits where they were just great hits.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing malicious about them, and it's a tough sport. It's a physical sport, but you do have to protect the athletes, especially the star athletes that get the money, right?
Yeah, and so many quarterbacks have been injured. I think Jake Dolegala was the 21st or 22nd starting quarterback in the league this year. So much bad luck, though.
Yeah, there's so many different things. Like some places have terrible turf. Some places have. It's just, I don't know. It's bad luck. It seems like one group is kind of targeted every year. Like last year, receivers were getting hurt. And, like it's just, I don't know. But it's not a good look for the league when you're already struggling with having like elite quarterbacks when you only have 2 or 3 maybe that you would call that, and then they're all getting injured. Like, maybe we're gonna find our next crop of elite quarterbacks now with these backups playing.
Yeah. For Montreal, Walter Fletcher and William Stanback are going to be in uniform here. I would like to see them employ the thunder and lightning thing in the backfield. They haven't really had much of a rushing attack in 2023, but there's been glimpses, and I really do think that would be big for the Alouette offense. But hey, they do have the leading receiver in the league in Austin Mack, just like we had it all drawn up back at the beginning of June. And I think this is an interesting note. Chandler Worthy looks like he's going to get the start at wide receiver, and he has played receiver before, although his career has kind of seen a little bit of a resurgence in Montreal with his success on special teams. I think getting him involved in the offense would be pretty cool, and I hope they can figure that out. I just want some off-the-field notes for Winnipeg. Kudos to them. I think they've donated over $300,000 worth of stuff to minor football this year, including 525 brand new helmets that will be distributed across schools in Manitoba. And on a lighter note, well, maybe a heavier note, I gotta mention that Ukrainian burger that's going to be available at the concessions in Winnipeg. I truly believe that these sort of attractions and these fun concession food items, and maybe making some of these items, the only place you can get them is at a CFL stadium. I think this would be good for the league. I imagine a 2 and Out article coming out every May talking about new mind-blowing items coming out at stadiums across the league. We see it in the Calgary Stampede every year. They come out with this article, the crazy stuff you could buy at the stadium, ketchup and mustard ice cream. And even if people don't get it, people talk about it. Oh, yeah. So I think this would just add to the stadium experience. But this Ukrainian burger, caramelized onions on it, sauerkraut on it, sour cream, and 20 pierogies And then it looks like 2 garlic sausages. If you probably put them end to end and straighten them out, it's probably 3 feet of sausage. Like,
Yeah, it's like one of those full coils that you would
yeah.
buy at like Costco. Like, let's go.
People have said it looks gross, but you know what? People are talking, and you can only get it at IG Field. So I love that. Kudos to the Bombers for making that happen. It looks like they're going to have another big crowd Thursday night, and then the Banjo Bowl is sold out. So well done to the Bombers for the sustained success in Winnipeg. If we do quickly look at the injury report for this coming game, Brandon Alexander is actually doubtful. On the injury report, it says it's not injury related, so that would be an absence from the back end of Winnipeg's defense if he does miss the game. Let's go to Friday Night Football, where Calgary goes east to play Calgary East. The Argos are 10-point favorites over the Calgary Stampeders. The over-under is set at 51. Now, a few weeks ago, I know Chad Kelly left the game with an ankle injury, but the Stamps beat the Argos. And I feel like, just like Saskatchewan played BC to the best of their abilities and maybe looked like a different team that we had seen all season, I think Calgary still has the ability to do that. They're a younger team, but I think they've got the coaching to pull it off. I'm not saying that they're going to go to Toronto and win, but and they're 3-7. I get that, but they still do have some ability to maybe keep this game maybe closer than people think. We'll see what happens, but they did beat Toronto not too long ago. A blow to the Calgary offense. Kadeem Carey is not playing, but I think Dedrick Mills has been successful when he's been into games this year, and I love watching him play. And in Toronto, your ticket this week gets you entry into the CNE, which I think is good for Argo fans or people that want to go check out the fair and have some ketchup and mustard ice cream or what have you in Toronto. Have you been to BMO Field, Sheldon?
I have not. I've driven by it, but I have not.
It's a cool setting to watch a game. Now, I was there once, 2016. I was surfing Kijiji while not in the best state of mind there for the Grey Cup and got scammed out of some tickets. But the sun came out after this storm, and the CFL ended up putting my brother and I up in a family section for the Stampeders, and we were cheering for the Ottawa RedBlacks, and the family members around us weren't so happy, and Henry Burris ended up pulling off the win, but that was an incredible Grey Cup. Do you see the Stamps having much success this week in Toronto? Now the Argos are coming off the bye, so that's another thing.
Yeah, they're obviously going to want to get some revenge for taking that L earlier. But like you said, they have the ability to still score points, and they have a good defense too.
Yeah.
It's just the quarterback play has been very hot and cold. Like, because there's even that Ottawa game, Mayer looked on fire. Like he was hitting.
Yeah.
He had like 450 yards or something that game. But then there's games where he can't hit the broadside of a barn door. So they have the receivers. If he can get the ball into their hands, then they have the receivers to make it close. And Mills has been running really well. So I think they will keep it close. And a lot of Toronto's games are high scoring shootouts, it seems, because they're giving up a lot of points too. So I think, yeah, I hope it's a nice close shootout style game, but I do see the Argos pulling away in the end.
Yeah, it's limiting those bad decisions from Jake Mayer. Like sometimes they'll follow up, a nice drive or a turnover, and we've seen it several times this season where the Stamps defense forces a turnover and then just a bad decision by Jake. Yeah. And I think we know that the Argos defense is capable of turning those turnovers into complete disasters for the opponent, even if they don't take it all the way. For 6, it seems like Chad Kelly and the offense has been able to capitalize on that. The Argos actually have the best turnover ratio in the Canadian Football League. They are plus 12 right now. So to Calgary to limit those, obviously, is a major focus and has to be going into this one. It looks like the Argos could be getting DeMonte Coxie back into the lineup. He's been practicing in full. He's made some dynamic catches this year, and I think the Argos receiving core kind of gets overlooked. But before the bye, I believe Davaris Daniels, who's had success in the CFL for quite a number of years, had the hat trick of touchdowns. Now Coxie comes back healthy and full strength. I mean, it made Markeith Ambles almost expendable. He went back to Calgary. So it's kind of a under the radar receiving core, but they can make plays. And I know you're going to want to talk about him. AJ Ouellette. Hey, first game back. First game back after that awesome spear through the table. How awesome was that?
It's amazing. I don't know how or why the Argos let him do it, but it's amazing. Like,
I'm shocked.
He blows out his knee, but amazing. Like, he obviously, when he retires, wrestlers can wrestle into their 40s. So if he wants to, it looks like he could set himself up for a nice second career there.
I did revisit Angelo Mosca's book during the pandemic, and just the culture back then, I'm so fascinated by it. He was playing football. He was wrestling in the WWF. Like
Bruno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, if AJ Ouellette can move up the pro wrestling ranks, I'm all for this. I think it's awesome.
I think James Wilder Jr. tried, had a tryout with WWE. I don't know what happened with it, but yeah, they're looking for athletes, so they'll take a football player. I don't know if they'll take a late 30s football player, but that's what they look for.
Ouellette's got the head of hair for, maybe being from the Rockers or something like that. And
Brian Pillman Jr. looks like him. He looks exactly like Brian Pillman Jr. right now.
And hey, if we talk pro wrestling, R.I.P. the Funker, the great Terry Funk. We lost at 79 years old. I feel like he was still wrestling 2 years ago, too.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 2 years ago. I think Tommy Dreamer always talks about him on Busted Open, but he was wrestling well, probably into the beginning of his 70s for sure.
Yeah.
Terry Funk. Love him.
And let's quickly shift over to the West Coast, where the BC Lions are also heavy favorites this week, but they were heavy favorites on Sunday against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They are now 10-point favorites over the Hamilton Tiger Cats, where the over-under is at 46 here. Now, Lions, I guess a slightly short week, but the Ticats traveling to the West Coast, and you have to think that the pressure is on Orlando Steinauer right now. They're the 1-9 for the Edmonton Elks. Didn't have any offensive success against them. They missed kicks. They had poor clock management against the Elks, and now this tough test in Vancouver. It just doesn't seem like a team in a very good spot right now, Sheldon.
No, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, it's been a tough year. As tough as a year, it's felt like here in some circumstances, or as an Elk fan, it's been a very tough year because there was a lot of anticipation and expectations in Hamilton. You get Bo Levi, so yeah, it's rough. But they second week under Milanovic's offense, so we'll see what they can do there, and hopefully Powell can lead some offense that we at least have a game and not just slaughtering,
Yeah.
because I think the Mountain Lions are going to be killing those Tiger Cats if we get back.
Well, and that's the key. Like James Butler making his return to BC Place, of course, great success in Vancouver, and great success actually last week, despite the loss against Edmonton. They had Butler rolling at times. Getting a running back rolling against the BC Lions doesn't seem to be an easy task, though. But Butler having success on first down and the Ticats offense in general having success on first down is an absolute must if they're going to try and they're going to leave Vancouver with a victory, because it's starting to get to desperation time. As we start to look at the playoffs, it kind of seems like the bottom four teams, Edmonton, Hamilton, Calgary, Ottawa, they're all in that hunt for that final playoff spot, which as of right now would be that Eastern semifinal in Montreal. Who is going to be Montreal's opponent at that one? Well, Hamilton needs to start beating some tough teams if they're going to be getting into that game. If we look to the BC Lions, it really is limiting. If you want to talk the Saskatchewan game, Perkins, the offensive lineman, if my math is right, I think he had 55 yards in penalties. So those holding calls, he had a procedure. They have to get on top of those penalties and also the turnovers. They were able to move the ball against Saskatchewan, but a costly interception, penalties, that just made it tough for them to overcome against a Rough Rider team that was playing with some intensity. So the Ticats, let's see if they're going to be able to bring that intensity here, but I have no doubt that Vernon Adams Jr. is going to keep playing some pretty darn good football, because he moved the ball against the Riders, and you saw it in the stands.
Yeah, and he was playing hurt for 3/4 of the game too. Like, he got a wicked elbow to the thigh, had a pretty bad Charlie horse. So he could tell, like, every television break he was stretching it out and trying to loosen it up and bouncing around on it. But like, Vernon Adams is a gamer, and he's so determined. Like, when he first got hurt and then came back in a few plays later and threw that pick, I was like, this is gonna be one of those Vernon Adams
almost
bad
felt
games
like
that he has. But no, he shook that right off, and I believe it was the next series. That's when they had that first touchdown to Hatcher, I think. And they, like, if they had another 2 minutes in that game, I think BC still does win that game. But a weaker opponent, I would say, coming in, and you're upset because you got a loss, and that doesn't bode well for Hamilton.
The Ticats are last in touchdowns scored. They are second last in points scored by the offense, and that is, of course, the Elks last. They got shut out twice, but the Ticats have only outscored them by 7 on the season. The Ticats offense is not what was expected, and of course Schiltz getting hurt, Bo getting hurt, that doesn't help. I understand that. The Ticats and the Lions are actually two of the worst rushing teams in the CFL. The Lions 78.1 yards a game, the Ticats 82.6, but the Ticats are last in rushing attempts. And I don't know, to help out Mr. Taylor Powell, James Butler is going to be a focus for the Ticats offense, but it's going to be a focus for that BC Lions defense as well. The Ticats have given up 375 point yards of net offense a game. that is good enough for 7th in the CFL. So the Ticats struggling in a lot of categories. They've given up the most points per game in the CFL, while the Lions have given up the least. It just shows that there are some categories here where it's a bit of a mismatch with the Lions playing the Ticats, but still, we've seen upsets this season. So the Lions, they cannot take Hamilton lightly, and if they're going to want to keep pace with Winnipeg, they're going to need to get themselves a win here. A tough blow to the BC Lions, as it appears Nathan Cherry, who is from Saskatoon, went to the U of S, out for the year with a knee injury. He's been out there on specials, rotating in on the D-line, and unfortunately, he's going to be out for the year. This Sunday, it's BC Lions Day at the P&E in Vancouver. It's going to start at 11. They're going to be there handing away some cool prizes. Players are going to be signing autographs. Lucky Whitehead is going to be on hand for the Super Dogs show at 6 o'clock on Sunday. I don't know if he's going to get involved. Hey, if AJ Ouellette
you
can
might be able
wrestle,
to run them. You may be able to run those dogs. Who knows?
Hey, if AJ Ouellette can wrestle, I'd like to see Lucky Whitehead run that Super Dogs course. Those dogs are impressive, man. And BC Lions fans, they get special pricing off of P&E advanced tickets. I will tell you the code, BC Lion 23. There you go. Enjoy a BC Lions Day this Sunday. And the game, of course, on Saturday at BC Place. I just love what's going on in Vancouver. Talked to the president recently. The packages that they sell for out-of-town fans, whether they're on the island or elsewhere in Vancouver, they're making things happen, man. And I just see Vernon Adams Jr. and the offense flying against the Ticats Saturday at BC Place. Now, look at the injury report here. The Ticats will be happy to have Terry Godwin back at practice. I guess he is dealing with some illness, but to have him back in the lineup would be good for that receiving core. And then other than Nathan Cherry, the BC Lions are looking pretty healthy themselves. Now, Sheldon, Sunday, the Edmonton Elks, 1-point favorites over the Ottawa RedBlacks. I don't know the last time the Elks have been a favorite at home, but here we are. And
General.
Could this be the end of pro sports' longest home losing streak? The Elks playing the RedBlacks.
Yes, it ends.
I'm picking the Elks, but I've talked to some fans in Edmonton. They're saying, look, I'm not counting the chickens before they hatch, man.
Oh, of course. Of course they're not going to. But as an outsider, Edmonton's winning this game. They broke the record, and that's enough. Let's get those fans a win and maybe get on a roll. Like, after this, they have Calgary twice. Calgary's not a good team. Not a great team. They may be, no, they're not a good team.
Not right now.
Potentially could go on a 4-0 run here. And I don't think they will. I see a split, but they're winning this game. They're coming off of momentum, finally winning that first game of the year. Trey Ford's playing again. He won the last 2 games that he's played or that he started. They're winning.
Okay, so I look at the RedBlacks defense, and I've praised them. Others across the CFL have praised them. But I think reality has started to set in a little bit. I don't know if the offense has helped them out as much as you would hope. Their rushing defense, good. Actually, great. The only defense in the CFL surrendering less than 4 yards a carry. That is excellent. But when you look at the passing numbers, it is It's not good. They've given up actually the most touchdowns in the CFL, the most offensive touchdowns in the CFL as well. The passing yards, they're the only team in the CFL to be giving up more than 300 yards a game. They're 30 yards more than the closest team. So they're giving up 10-point yards a pass. They've given up the most passing touchdowns, the most completions over 30 yards. Like, we got to cool the Jets on the RedBlacks defense a little bit. They've been giving up big plays. And Trey Ford and the Elks offense made some big plays against the Ticats last week. This is why Trey Ford is my fantasy quarterback, which means that I've jinxed it. I will be attending the game at Commonwealth Stadium. And
sleeping on the couch.
That's the double jinx. Well, my wife's been like, there have been times this year when I'm like, they're going to do it. And my wife's like, no, it's not happening. So,
well, what does Taylor think about this weekend? Like,
I think she's cautiously optimistic, which is, I think, a good thing to be.
Yeah.
But you know what? At times this year, the Elks have given up big plays as well. They have struggled against the run. At times this year, they're the only team in the CFL giving up over 6 yards a carry. Now, when Dustin Crum starting, he was a threat with his legs. And in the past few weeks, and remember that game against Toronto, he had 3 passing touchdowns. He's coming around when it comes to the passing, not using the legs as much. But we've seen Jackson Bennett, the running back, making plays. Devontae Williams, the running back, making plays for the RedBlacks. So maybe that is how they're going to try to get to Edmonton, because over the past few weeks, that defensive line, that front with blitzes as well, they've been getting after quarterbacks, and Crum has been taking hits. I don't know how they limit that happening against Edmonton, but they need to find a way to stop it early, because I feel like if the momentum starts in Edmonton's way, and it's happened before where they have the momentum in the first half and it falls apart in the second half. But if they let that Elks team start rolling early, it might be tough for Crum and the RedBlacks.
I think Crum's kind of been figured out. I think defensive coordinators are spying him now, and to take away that chance of him, running after he can't find anybody. So they have to work on his throwing. But Chris Jones has a confusing defense, and this is going to be the first time he's seeing it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't see any of these late game, tying and winning in overtime. Like, I don't think teams are going to allow that anymore. They kind of know what to do to stop him now, I think. But see what happens.
Well, and last week, Ottawa was the team that allowed Montreal to come back with maybe some conservative play calling on both offense and defense. So, hey, they've got a chance to beat Edmonton as well. They have some veterans that could be added to the lineup in Brandon Dandridge, who's had an impact in the return game and on defense. I know Devontae Dedmon out for the year. It sucks, but Dandridge has been able to have success in the return game, and they might be able to get Braylon Addison into the lineup, which I would love to see him back onto the field. He's coming off the Achilles injury, practicing in full early this week. I love to see that. Unfortunately, Nate Bahar not practicing. He's got an Achilles injury now listed on the injury report. I do want to mention this, and Dave Campbell from 630 Ched mentioning Dean Faithful, the kicker for the Elks, not practicing as of Wednesday. That's not good, because he's their only kicker on the roster. He's their global player on the roster. So I always thought it was kind of a puzzling decision, the 36-year-old rookie for Chris Jones and the Elks. But if he's unable to play, we'll see what happens there. We do got to mention off the field stuff for the Elks. Rick Lallisher, I guess, coming out of retirement. He's the interim president and CEO in Edmonton. He's got a task ahead of him. I watched some of the press briefings. I guess it was Tuesday. Trying to be that steady hand, that respected voice in the organization, putting the team on the right path. He's kind of going to have meetings with everybody in Commonwealth Stadium and around the organization, seeing what needs to be fixed, and trying to maybe get some more cash injected into that franchise and seeing which way they can go regarding community ownership or not. And I've also heard that he might be the guy leading the charge in the CFL meetings when it comes to that operations cap. But Chris Jones is thinking, man, let's delay this as long as we can.
Chris Jones loves the cap.
No, seriously, if they go on a 4-game winning streak here, is all the talk of Jones being fired like gone?
No, it won't be.
Yeah.
The talk is going to be get him out of the GM and he can coach.
Right.
Like that will still be happening. But he's a far better coach than a GM. I think everyone can, like, he obviously knows talent and he's always had an eye for talent, but
yeah,
it seems like he wants to make his eye for talent work no matter what at the expense of possibly winning games, which we've seen with Trey Ford and not playing him up until last week. So, but if they go on if they get into a playoff position, then at least maybe it quiets down a little bit. I don't know. I still have Chris Jones PTSD from the Riders when he left us, so I don't.
I still think if that Rider team had any sort of offense, they would have won a championship. I know they ended. Yeah,
it's no different than when he was with when in Edmonton. He had an amazing defense and he had Mike Riley. That's why they won the Grey Cup, because he had Mike Riley as a quarterback. So it's a shame. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, sarcastically. The Jerry Seinfeld gif.
My favorite gif, especially around you guys.
The CFL Podcast Fantasy League. I took a loss to Adam from Canadian Football Countdown, so congrats to him last week. And this week, I think I've got Will from the Argos Fancast. So we'll see what happens here. Pull your lineup up when you got a chance. I'm rolling with the Elks, man. I'm rolling with it. Trey Ford's my QB. Kyron Moore, my receiver that I've matched with him, and the Edmonton Elks defense. My running backs are Devontae Williams and Brady Oliveira, and I've also got DeMonte Coxie of the Argos and Tommy Lee Lewis of the Stampeders. He is actually questionable this week, so I might have to switch that up. They've also got Bryce Bell, the offensive lineman, maybe not playing for the Stampeders as well. So we'll see if I have to switch him there. I think he's a guy that needs to get into the offense more, and he gets return yards. So he'll be my guy if I can fit him into the lineup for the Stamps against the Argos. What are you looking at?
I also have Trey Ford and the Elks defense. My captain is AJ Ouellette, of course. My other running back's Mizell. Just rolling the dice. Hopefully he can have a good game.
He's had good games.
For receivers, I got Kenny the King Lawler, Jalen Acklin, and my flex is Hukanova Matata. Hukanova.
Hakanavanu, there we go.
Hakanavanu, there you go.
Oh, I thought about getting touchdown tie in there against the Bombers as well, but I don't know. If I'm looking at Pick'em this week, I'm sweeping it for the home teams. Bombers, Argos, Lions, Elks.
We are the same again. Hopefully Hopefully we go 4-0 instead of 3-1 last week.
I'm 7-1 in the past 2 weeks, so I'll take it any way I can. Sheldon, hey, sick haircut, terrible shrimp eating skills, but thanks for coming on the show. You're so bad. I love it. Thanks for coming on and chatting football on a Wednesday, my man.
No problem. Anytime. As long as it's not a rainy day.
You can rate, review, and subscribe. It was raining here, but now the sun's shining. Tune out on your favorite podcatcher. You can like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel if you want to see our ruggedly handsome mugs, and then Patreon as well, patreon.com/2andout CFL podcast. Thanks for listening to the show. I'll be back on Monday to recap week 12 with Brazilian Tie. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.